to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast where we discuss all things hospitality, hotels, and business. You can find us online at slicktalkthepodcast.com and on every podcast listening platform.
All right, we're back. We're doing a quick episode that's a little bit different than normal because we actually don't do episodes like this where we do a quick form overview of stuff. But I'm excited to welcome Amelia from Wheelhouse. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. How are you?
Doing so good. I'm glad that we get to collaborate on this this fun little chat that we put together. To just give everyone a quick background that's listening or watching. My company, Recreation Rentals, has teamed up with a few specific partners in the industry, such as Wheelhouse, to do all of our revenue management, our dynamic pricing, connecting with our PMS, and pushing out our pricing to the world, basically through every channel that exists for our properties. And we had such a good experience that was like, hey, Andrew, we gotta talk about something to showcase what you guys are doing for us and how much this has helped. And then Amelia, that's where you came in because you've just been a godsend, basically, from the whole Wheelhouse team to help us get onboarded. So here we are. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah, amazing. I'm super excited, as I said, to have kind of a front row seat to your growth. It's not every day that we get to partner with somebody who's just budding into, the space, and it's exciting to see from the kickoff point. And I can't wait to see where you are in like 5 years. It's going to be really fun to look back at.
Yeah, it's crazy to see that our dashboard once had 0 properties on it. Now we have the 3 full recreation rental experience going on Wheelhouse. So it's really exciting.
Yeah.
It's just been really cool. So I think what we're going to do today for everyone watching and listening, we're going to showcase just the amazing aspect of what partnerships like this can do for your business, whether you're 150,000 properties or 100 properties or 10 properties or 1 property, and why this stuff is important. What you guys have done for us is really, really crucial, and we'll dive into that. And then basically what it looks like to really offload this operational, I wouldn't say headache, because it's not a headache to make money. We want to make money in a lot of ways.
Right.
But the operational, process of having to constantly check rates and check the market and check, everything that goes into it. I'm a big fan of trust but verify. So instead of doing a daily check, maybe I'll do like a weekly, bi-weekly type deal. And you can explain why Wheelhouse lets me do that, because it's gonna. So I'm excited. But I'm excited to actually, we're doing a little, if you're listening on the podcast, normally I don't do video, but we're doing video. And I want to show this cool little video that we put together for Recreation Rentals to kind of showcase our vision better than maybe what I can say, other than we're a experiential brand. We really want to embrace the ability of creating a destination, right? So you may travel to other destinations around the world, whether it's, Cancun or somewhere beautiful in Colorado to go hiking and do all these things. But we want to understand properties that are in these destinations really can create a destination within themselves by offering these amenities, by offering great experiences and hospitality, but then also, again, partners like Wheelhouse being a big crucial part of that. So quick little video to kind of give a vision of what Recreation Rentals is, and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Perfect.
So
gorgeous.
Pretty cool. Yeah, right?
Yeah. Super
cool. Those are all actually filmed and shot in the PNW. I had my photographer, videographer guy create that little 30 seconds of masterpiece for this beautiful destination we're in. And I really think it was important for us to highlight the workcation, staycation, vacation because of what we've seen this year from COVID. And I'm sure, Amelia, you have tons of data to back this up. But the drive to destinations, the domestic travel, the people discovering their backyard in a different way, and then also traveling different now because, with COVID, a lot of business travel was put off, and now we're seeing a little bit of a rise, I think. business travelers are looking for something a little bit different than just a normal like standard hotel room comparatively back in like 2019 or pre-COVID when that was all they did was hotel to hotel to hotel, and now
Mhm.
vacation we're really stepping it up. So what are your thoughts on, I guess, diving into that kind of data and what you're seeing with that?
Yeah, it's been interesting to see how, people wanting to go vacation in their backyard to just do a staycation has had a direct impact on booking windows and lead time, and how that has completely shifted how people need to, do their pricing strategy. And so we've kind of built a lot of different tools around that recently. And um, with like historical data in the market, it can be either irrelevant or kind of unreliable. Now that COVID happened, you can't really look at historical data the same way you did before.
Right.
And so that's why, Wheelhouse really stands strongly on the bookings based model, which allows us to take the real time transactional data that's happening in the market and blending that into your pricing. Because no matter what's happening in the market, whether it's COVID or any kind of volatile shift, at the end of the day, the real-time bookings are going to be the ultimate source of truth. So it's really reassuring that we're able to stand on the bookings-based model, which is pretty unique to Wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And so we've been able to kind of factor in all those different market changes that we've seen since COVID into our pricing plan.
Can you explain the results you guys are seeing from that? Because, or maybe like the results you saw prior to that shift, because it sounds like that real-time data from the book itself, uh, comparatively to just like seeing what market trends are, would be pretty significantly different. Am I mistaken on that? Or what's the, I guess, the end result when it comes to getting that data?
Yeah, whenever I'm looking at, like 2019 versus 2020 versus 2021, it's not as drastic as you would think. But it really makes a difference because when people are kind of timing out when to tear down their pricing or things like that, over time, that can make a huge difference if you're not paying attention to changes in lead time. So we really paid a lot of attention to booking windows and who is booking at the same time in your market, because those areas have really just gotten more significant since you have less time to plan out for vacations and things like that. So we've been factoring that in more heavily.
Definitely, definitely. And so, uh, how, I guess, I'm just curious, how drastic, like what, I guess, is the US the most drastic change in the booking window time from pre-COVID? Like, is that a significant change, or is it not as much as you would expect? Kind of like you just said.
Yeah, it's been pretty significant, and it also changes a lot. So it's harder to keep up with because booking windows kind of are shifting. So the lead time is really what's changed the most, and so people are booking way more last minute, but it's really something that you need to pay attention to in order to maximize revenue. So we've been just trying to highlight those different areas, specifically like lead time, as to what to pay attention to continue maximizing revenue, especially with Wheelhouse. We have tons of tools that make it really easy to see where the real-time spikes in demand are from the booking-based model. And then from there, you can really easily identify where you might want to make changes on your strategy and on your calendar.
Definitely. And I'm curious, are we in a slowdown of booking, like in the sense of the lead time? Because I would say for our first property, before we even fully onboarded with Wheelhouse, we turned it on and that calendar filled up like quick. We had pretty much 99, 98% occupancy until September, and September is about, I would say, 75% right now. But I feel like we're seeing a slower, like we're not seeing as many bookings come in as fast as we did. Is that kind of a just us thing, or is that an industry or?
Yeah, it's really market by market. And so, yeah, it's not like a blanket approach, and it's pretty volatile. So, over the past couple months, people were getting excited, things were kind of clearing up. And so we saw an increase in bookings. But now it's really market by market and kind of depends on different mandates and market shutdowns and kind of how each market is handling, the Delta variant specifically. So it's volatile and depends on markets. So that's why we have a lot of tools that kind of make it easy to hone in on your specific market, because you can't just do broad research. You really need to know what's going on in your neighborhood.
For sure. And I think that's really important and crucial. I think for, just my experience with you guys so far, just being implemented in the overall dashboard and onboarding, seeing like the thought process that goes on like between you and John, helping us like set up our revenue strategy for the cabin. Like that was super crucial for us because you're able to pull in some of the data that we weren't even thinking about, in the sense of after 180 days or even 60 days, and what does this look like when you know you can come up with the base rates pretty easily. You can come up with all these certain things, but the tools that Wheelhouse provided for us to kind of look that far ahead and to be able to adjust without having me to like wake up at 1 a.m. and be like, oh my gosh, I forgot, like this crazy season's about to happen, and going and adjusted. So I'm curious to know for you guys, like, what's your overall, like, because what you did with us was really important and really crucial to help us get that strategy in place. But what are your like main points in Wheelhouse that you guys have to hit with the property manager as you're bringing on either a new property or market that you're going over with them?
Yeah, so I think overall, we really want to make more advanced revenue management more approachable than ever for anybody. So with the new business intelligence tools, it kind of automatically gives everybody who uses them like a bachelor's degree in revenue management, which is really exciting because even if you have like hundreds of listings, a lot of people don't have time to be in the weeds and checking on prices every single day and keeping up with the market. So I think the great thing about Wheelhouse is that you're able to customize the strategy and kind of match the base rate to what you have in mind because you have the most experience in your market and you want to be able to apply that. And so you're able to customize each of the settings while still benefiting from the dynamic pricing. So we'll still be reacting to demand spikes and dips in demand to maximize your revenue and optimize your occupancy. And so in the spirit of making it more approachable, we help people in the initial onboarding stage just to get them comfortable with the tool. And it really depends on what's happening with the market as to where you would want to be more aggressive versus go with the recommended rates. And we're able to share kind of how the tool works, the ins and outs of it with users throughout onboarding. And so I think with you, we went with the more aggressive far future premium pricing. So yeah, you're able to tier out those. It allows you to protect your further out dates while the model is picking up on transactional data, because it doesn't really matter what the market is pricing at, or it matters what they're transacting at the end of the day. That's going to make the biggest difference. So we like to, kind of weave in another demo while we're doing onboarding so that people are confident with the pricing and understand where it's coming from. I know Wheelhouse is making a huge shift towards removing the black box around revenue management. So we really want to open the doors and have people understand where the pricing is coming from, how our various models are at play, and then invite all of the challenging questions to audit us. So I hope you do the same when you're diving in, and if you have a question, always bring it up and we can do a deeper dive into it. We really want people to be comfortable with the pricing tool, get all of their settings input up and running, and then from there it can be as close to a set it and forget it tool as you want.
Yeah, and I love that because for me, I don't know about other people that are listening or watching, but I can do a demo day and night with any software and company, but once you finally get your hands on something that's actually a property you're running, it's so different. Like I've demoed with Andrew so many times on Wheelhouse prior to us even having a property, via podcasts and being able to recommend you guys and do all this other stuff. But then okay, actually putting on the cozy cabin, out in Cincinnati and all these other properties, it's so different compared to I was like, man, there's so many times I probably didn't pay attention. Or
but that's the same with learning anything. Is the best way to do it is get your hands on it. So that's why anybody can go make a free Wheelhouse account and play around with the sample listing that we automatically put on there, because I could not agree more. You could learn so much more, so much quicker if you get your hands on it. And it can be intimidating at first, revenue management as a whole. But once you start getting into the tool, we get a lot of feedback on how user-friendly our interface is. And so I'm glad that that's coming through in your first week with us.
Oh, 100%. And I was actually talking to you before we hit record, but my hotel revenue management experience versus this is so different, because with hotel revenue management, you're looking at star reports, you're looking at OTA Insight and all these other different dashboards, and even some of the property management softwares would give an insight or scoop on what other properties are doing, but you never knew. Data was so segregated and spread out through different platforms, and it's easier to price when you have multiples in one building versus multiples across a state or a city or even a country. So I think the user friendliness of Wheelhouse has been huge. Not that I struggled as a hotel revenue manager, but there's a lot. You have so many hoops to jump through and to calculate against versus the one property in one destination or multiple properties in the same destination across.
Yeah, you make an important point, because we recently partnered with Key Data. They chose us as their pricing partner, and so through that we've learned that you can have all of the data in the world. So like data around the short-term rental space or even the hotel space has been available for so long, but if like the provider doesn't take it and make it into something that's like readily available, then it's way less useful and approachable for people. And so that's why our newer tools, like our bookings page and our insights tab, they really, aim to make that data way more approachable than ever.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'm super excited to use it more because, yeah, it's definitely a helpful tool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's super good. I love it.
And then, even more on the, hotel spaces, with like the bookings page. I know that like hotels pay way more attention to like pickup nights and things like that. And so it's been interesting to see how we're kind of folding in, how hotels have been doing things for years and kind of plucking and choosing what makes sense to apply to the short-term rental space. So I think the closer you look, you'll see more and more overlap with, how the hotel space operates. And it's always interesting to see, who leads in what sector. We're always taking notes from the hotel space, and I think they're starting to do the same with us. So it'll be interesting to see how it continues to evolve.
Totally agree with that. And I was going to ask you, do you see other property managers looking at hotel inventory in their competition set? Like, do you see them being like, hey, the Marriott down the road is, we have to make sure like we're competing against them when it comes to price? Or are they really focusing on the other like styled vacation homes in their market compared, or are they just looking at inventory across the whole market?
It depends on market by market and person by person. We usually, like when you talk to operators in Florida who have all kinds of inventory, and it's, just across the gamut. You have huge resorts, huge hotels, and then also a ton of short-term rentals. So we see a lot of them, operators in that space considering it more heavily. And then others, aren't considering hotels to be their competitors. They don't think that consumers are looking at both at the same time. But we usually encourage them to kind of consider that consumers can be looking across the board. They're not always looking, at the same time frame or at the same, their search is more broad than you would probably usually think. And so, with that, we hope to pull some of that data in, with our market reports and things like that, so you can get a broader picture of what consumers are looking for. So with, market reports, you can see how different types of inventory are performing and based on, per amenity, and kind of how that you can kind of compare that to what hotels have to offer in your space.
Yeah, it's no longer just, I guess, I'm not going to look at them because they're not a vacation rental. And even though, Airbnb is coming out with all these, the stats on, a traveler uses 7 or more filters and all this other stuff. Well, because they're a big platform and everyone is using it, doesn't mean everybody's using it for a property. So just all the other options and channels that are out there, I think it's really incredible to have that open mind of, okay, like what's real competition inventory and versus what's inventory that, my specific traveler, because like that's what I think with dynamic pricing like Wheelhouse, we're able to really like take our traveler persona that we want, the type of guest that is more active outside and wants to go skiing and wants to go hiking and wants to go this, and then we're able to take that character and kind of plug it into how we've set up our listing, to how we set up our communications and our marketing and our photos, but then also our price point on what that looks like. Are we targeting a group, whether it's like a group of friends that want to go skiing, or is it a family that wants to get away because it's winter break, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Key, I think, for property managers to understand how those factors, like that bridge crosses when you don't just create a traveler persona and be like, all right, well, my pricing is not going to match that. Like you take that into consideration on how you're pricing with your property and what inventory you do find to be important to watch.
Right. And how seasonality plays into that, and same with your competitors. And so that's why Wheelhouse will update your competitors every single day, because the short-term rental inventory is so volatile. Like availability, seasonality, you're going to have different, your neighbor with a hot tub is going to be way more competitive in the winter than they are in the summer. And so picking up on those really granular insights and updating those every day is going to be valuable. And also, paying attention to, again, booking windows. So when we determine your competitors, we're looking at proximity and features, which are, pretty baseline. That's who you're usually going to consider for your competitors. But what's most uniquely and maybe more importantly to Wheelhouse is booking windows. So we're looking at who's booking at the same time as you, because those are really going to be your neck and neck competitors at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, there's just like, we could probably go on to a whole conversation of like,
Totally.
just this, like the market data insight and what it takes to really like hone into that.
You can see why demos can get
Yeah.
heavy. There's a lot to cover.
100%. But I think it's really cool because I don't know. I remember talking to Andrew shortly after we onboarded with you and John. Just like, look, we had an understanding of, our revenue management, what we wanted to do, especially for this one property. Like it's our ideal property in the sense, like it's not, granted, like nothing's ever perfect, but it's a great property for what we envisioned, to fit into that recreation vision that we showed in that video. And you guys being able to really pull in, like, I don't know, I just think the overall consumption of data and like ideas of the booking windows and how the big seasonality, like right now we're not getting a lot of bookings, but guess what, in winter when it is ski season and that ski right behind the cabin is getting a lot of snow, your guys' tool is going to be able to catch that for us before we even know. Like we'll be sleeping and bookings will be coming in, and your guys' tool will be like picking up on that and being able to price this better, so that way we're not leaving money on the table, or where I say it, money on the slopes. If
dare you say it? Yes.
Had to find some way to do it.
Of course.
So it's really cool to know that, like, because as a revenue manager, I remember, just waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning, because not like intentionally, but just being like, okay, I'm getting a call from the front desk, or I'm getting a call from this or whatever, and then being able to be like, okay, why is our inventory this? Why is our pricing like this? And then have to like go in and change stuff, versus where I can actually like sleep and have coffee and not have to worry about
and trust the tool. And I think that's where kind of the educational aspect comes into play, because if you can understand our model and how it's working for you while you sleep, then you will inevitably trust it. So that's, I think, my favorite part of my job is like talking to people like you and everybody, and working with them to understand the model so that you can trust it and actually get your 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. Thank you guys. This my sleep is brought to you by Wheelhouse. It's so good. I have one question now that you mentioned that, and we'll kind of wrap up the show here. But if you have a client that isn't seeing bookings come in based after they've gone through that onboarding, they set their thresholds, they set their base rates, they kind of put in a strategy to what they want, whether they want to be recommended or aggressive or less aggressive, and they're not seeing bookings, what's the first thing that you recommend for anyone to go into Wheelhouse and kind of maybe adjust to play around with? Is it their listing specifically, or is it their rates specifically during that period?
I would go, if you're looking at one particular listing and you're wondering why it's not picking up bookings, then I would first go to Insights tab. So that's where you're able to look at our reactive demand model, which is, again, the bookings-based model. So you're able to see where the real-time demand is in your market and see how your bookings are aligning with that, and see if there's somewhere that you can further maximize revenue or adjust your strategy. So that's where, the one business intelligence tool that allows you to look for a spike, look at the date, and then you can go right to your calendar and see where you might want to make an adjustment. Or the bookings tab is going to be really critical for this. And you're able to look at bookings on a, I think we're going to release this soon, but on a really granular level, you're able to, see not only how much revenue you have on the books, but when it's coming in. So you can compare your bookings. We score them to show the quality. And so you can really compare across your bookings where the most quality bookings are and where you have room to improve. So we make it really easy and obvious as to where, you have some gaps in your strategy that could use a bit more attention.
Well, I just learned something new about Wheelhouse that I didn't know. So I need to go into
more to come for sure.
That's awesome. Well, I need to go into that tab right after this recording and
play around. You might find something.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show and for taking the time to kind of share the story of our experiences, like with each other, being onboarding and playing around with certain strategies and just the overall dynamic pricing tool that you guys have. It's been really cool, and you guys are definitely not just a service provider in the industry. I like to say, I've told Andrew, you guys definitely understand hospitality, which is really cool because at the end of the day, I think too many times companies like try to like solve a problem in the industry and then be like blank, like when it comes to personality and
Right.
kind of connecting with their customers. So I just want to say thank you so much for being so awesome with us and getting us up and going.
Of course, yeah, it's the most fun team in the world to work with, and that is true every single day. And so, thank you for having me on, and I can't wait to do another one of these in 5 years when you're leading the space by
We'll
far.
be doing it. We'll be doing it on the beach in person and
Absolutely.
probably not working.
Yeah, mojito in hand for sure.
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much, and we'll be back again with another episode.